Spoiler warning, footage may spoil games from this or previous years. You've been warned.
JohnnyCom.
Hey guys, JohnnyCom here, and today I wanted to do a little something different. I wanted to count down my top 10 video games that I played in 2024. So this is my top 10 for the year of 2024, but I'm kind of cheating a little bit because I didn't play all games that were just from 2024 this year, obviously. I decided that instead I was going to rank just the top 10 games that I played or finally got to experience in the year 2024. So they may have been released in 2024 or they may have been released prior to that. Basically, I'm ranking just the games that I played as much as I enjoyed them from 10 to 1, with number 1 being the best and number 10 being the not best, but still a game that I absolutely loved because it's in my top 10 for the year. And then at the end, I am going to pick an ultimate number 1 overall winner between the two top competing titles. And what I mean by that is I've picked 5 games from the year 2024 that I got to play this year, and I've picked 5 games that were not from the year 2024 that came out other years, and just talk about each of those. The rules are, however, that since it is 2024, obviously the games that are in 2024 are the top 5. So I am going to go ahead and just get started and kind of rank them by how much I enjoyed them. And then we will pick an ultimate winner for the year, which has to be a 2024 game. So anyway, this is my personal top 10 games I got to play this year. Coming in at number 10, I have Sunset Overdrive. Sunset Overdrive is an open world action platformer third-person shooter game. It's developed by Insomniac, who is actually my favorite video game developer probably of all time. They made Spyro, Ratchet & Clank, Spider-Man, and you can really see where they kind of took things that they learned from their previous titles and applied them to Sunset Overdrive. And it's a really fun action game with a lot of humor. Even though it is a little bit immature, it's still really funny. I really was glad that I finally got to play this one after picking up an Xbox One for really cheap. And I can see where they took a lot of what they learned in this game and actually applied it to Spider-Man on the PlayStation 4 and later PlayStation 5. If you have an Xbox One and you haven't played Sunset Overdrive, I feel like you're really doing yourself a disservice. It's one of the only games that's still an exclusive on that console, although I do believe you can play it on PC now. I highly suggest checking out Sunset Overdrive. It's a ton of fun. At number 9, I have Castlevania Lords of Shadow. Now this game really took me by surprise. I was not expecting to like it as much as I did. Usually when I think of Castlevania, I think of really, really hard platformers. But Lords of Shadow is actually an action game. It's very similar to games like Devil May Cry and Bayonetta, and I love that. I love the leveling systems. I absolutely love the combat. It can be as complicated or as simple as you want it to. You have pretty much full control of how you upgrade your abilities. There's tons of collectibles. The story is actually pretty damn good. And the game is beautiful. Even though it's running at like 25 to 30 frames a second on the PlayStation 3 version that I played, it still looks absolutely gorgeous, and the effects that they use to kind of cover up the choppy frame rate is really impressive, especially when they add things like rain or snow. It really truly does give it that cinematic, movie-like experience. At number 8, I have Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. Now this is another game that took me by surprise. I started playing this one because I was told to check it out after completing another game that will also be on this list. People told me it was very similar to that game, and so I was like, oh well, I've never checked out Metal Gear Rising, and I remember being really excited for it back in the day, and I never got around to playing it. So I picked up a copy on Amazon brand new for $15, and this game blew me away. The combat in this game is absolutely fantastic. The way that you can use the right stick and the left stick to kind of rotate and aim how you want to slice things. There's even mechanics that encourage you to cut off like certain limbs to get certain bonus parts and stuff. It's just a really, really cool combat system. It's super fluid. The game's not too long. To me, it was the perfect length, and it's very replayable. You can go through it and upgrade all of the equipment, find new skins. It's just a blast to play. This is definitely one of those action games that I feel is super underrated. I just never really hear people talking about it these days, and I think that's really sad. And that's why it's in my top 10 this year. At number 7 is Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing Transformed. Now, when I first started playing this game, I did not like it. I did not like the controls. I didn't like that you couldn't swap the acceleration for X instead of R1. I didn't like that you had to steer with the analog stick. There's no option to use the D-pad, and I still think that is a really dumb decision. But I will say that after going back and revisiting it, after stepping away from its prequel, Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, I came back to this one with a fresh head and gave it an honest go, and it is one of the best kart racers I have ever played. It is super colorful, the tracks are amazing, the soundtrack is awesome, the amount of characters, including super obscure ones that I don't even know what franchise they're from. There's just so much in this game to enjoy. It is very difficult at times. A lot of the challenges, especially trophies, are really hard. You're really gonna have to try to get them. And it's just a fantastic kart racer. I would put it up there and say that it competes, if not exceeds expectations when it comes to something like Mario Kart. I would almost say in a lot of ways, it's kind of better. And at number 6, I am putting Bloodborne on the PlayStation 4. Now, Bloodborne is a game that I actually played at launch, and I remember beating it, and I remember never touching it again. And I really did myself a disservice with that, because I remember absolutely loving the game. It was the first FromSoft game that I ever beat. And I did love it. I loved the world. I loved the gothic Victorian aesthetic, but after I beat it that first time, I never went back to it. I guess there were a lot of games, and I just didn't have time. I finally sat down and went back to it, and I struggled through the 30 FPS at first, but eventually I got used to it. And I realized that I had been so missing out by cutting myself off from enjoying this game for so long, because it has become one of my favorite PlayStation 4 games, without a doubt. I played through the whole game, I got all of the trophies, I platinumed it, I bought the DLC, played that, collected all of the weapons, and just had a blast the entire time playing Bloodborne. I'm now going to be one of those people begging for Bloodborne remake or remaster every time a gaming event comes up. The combat in this game is super fluid and fantastic. It's got a really cool system where instead of it's defensive, like most FromSoft games, you're really encouraged to be aggressive and attack as many times as you can, because you can refill your health. If you get damaged, but you do damage to the enemy fast enough, it will refill your health before just completely saying, no, you're screwed, you're not getting that back. It's just got so many cool mechanics. The world is so fun to explore. The story is one of those stories where it's just explained enough to where you have an idea what's going on, but you can also speculate on what exactly it all means. Bloodborne is such a good game. If you haven't played it, I definitely suggest checking it out, whether it be on PlayStation 4, playing the updated / nicer looking version. It's not really an updated version on PlayStation 5, or perhaps doing a little bit of that E-word thing for it on your PC. Now that we're in the top 5, it's time we start talking about games that released in 2024, and I'm going to start with Helldivers 2. Now, Helldivers 2 is my number 5 for a few reasons. Number 1, I only played it for about a week and a half after it launched. I did really enjoy the game. It's a ton of fun as an online shooter, but that's also kind of where I feel it's weak. I don't like online exclusive games typically. The thing that made this game really fun for me is its sense of humor. Its way of misdirecting people who may not understand what it's actually making fun of. I think it's hilarious. It's just got all of this super patriotic, really funny dialogue and messaging that's like, it's just hilarious. If you've ever seen like Starship Troopers, you'll kind of get what I mean. It's a really fun online game. It is very difficult, and the thing that I don't like about the game is as it went on, they started nerfing items that I liked. And it was just pointless for me to play because all the stuff that I liked just got worse, and the game was already hard for me with those items. So I stopped playing, but I will say that it's a very well supported game, and it seems like they're trying to take all the feedback they can. And I do think it deserves to be in my top 5 because it is one of the only 2024 games I got around to playing a lot, but it's also just a really fun third-person shooter online game, and we don't have a lot of those these days. In number 4, I'm putting Marvel Rivals. So Marvel Rivals is an Overwatch-style hero shooter game. It is totally free to play, so that's why it gets a spot on this list. But in addition to that, it's just a fantastic third-person online hero shooter. It has so many characters, including ones you may not have heard of. It's got some of my favorites like Psylocke and Scarlet Witch. It's just a ton of fun to play. There is a battle pass and there's some other monetization strategies here, but overall the gameplay in this is just absolutely fantastic. I really love how every character actually does feel unique, like they have their own movesets. None of them feel too samey. I love this kind of like semi-cell shaded graphical look that they went with. I think they did everything right in this game. They have the kind of multiverse thing going on, and it's just super fun. I'm really looking forward to where this game goes moving forward. I really hope we get characters like Gambit or maybe Cyclops, a lot of the X-Men I'd like to see. But overall, you guys know I'm a huge Marvel fan, and this game came out of nowhere to me. I didn't even know it was being developed. And then when I found out that it was out and it was free, I just had an absolute blast. I platinumed it within a week, and I'm going to continue to play this game because it's a ton of fun. If you're looking for a Psylocke main to join your team, hit me up. Getting into the top 3, this was very difficult for me, but I decided to put Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics at number 3 on my list. I'm putting it at number 3 for a couple of reasons. Number 1, it is just a collection of really old fighting games from the 80s, 90s, early 2000s kind of era, where you were in an arcade playing these games against other people, putting in quarters, just trying to get better. But these are games that we haven't seen released in an official capacity, and certainly not in a really affordable capacity, in a really long time. So just to have Marvel vs. Capcom 2 on a disc, physically, or a cart if you got it on Switch, is a fantastic thing. I'm so glad Capcom finally released some of the best fighting games of all time, with some amazing rosters, some amazing characters from both Marvel and Capcom. This is just such a fun game. I platinumed this one the day that it came out. I bought it digitally on PS4 and on Switch, and then I did not cancel my physical copies, so I have sealed copies on Switch and PS4. I want to support this game. I really hope we get a new Marvel vs. Capcom game in the coming years. Now guys, this is where it's gonna get a little bit strange, because these two games are so different, but so similar in a lot of ways. But ultimately, I have to give the number 2 spot to Astrobot. Astrobot is a fantastic 3D platformer. We haven't seen a game like this in a while. In fact, I would argue we haven't really seen a great 3D platformer like this since we first saw Astro's Playroom with the launch of the PlayStation 5. But this game is absolutely fantastic. This is a call to arms, a call to action for the entire industry that you need to really put in effort to just make a great, fun game. You don't have to put in all this crazy monetization stuff. You don't have to constantly update it, even though Astrobot developers have done a really good job at adding content after the fact, but it's all been free. And just making a good, fun game for anybody to play, whether it be a kid, an adult, anybody who picks up Astrobot can enjoy it. You don't have to be a PlayStation fan to enjoy running around in the world, but if you are a PlayStation fan, it's just a bonus because you're finding all of these objects and items and characters that call back to the entire history of the PlayStation brand. It's a fantastic action platformer. There's a reason that it won Game of the Year at the Game Awards, and yeah, I'm really happy that it did win, but there is one game above it that I have to put in my number 1 spot this year, and that is Stellar Blade. You guys know I did a video on Stellar Blade a little bit earlier this year, just kind of gushing about how much I love it, so I'm not going to go into detail about why I love it, but I'm going to say this. Stellar Blade got snubbed at the Game Awards, okay? Because if it should have won anything, it definitely should have won soundtrack. There is so much good music in this game, I cannot believe that it did not win a single award, but that's beside the point. Stellar Blade is an awesome action game. It's like the best of all worlds. If you were to combine like Demon's Souls with Bayonetta, with Devil May Cry, with just a ton of like classic kind of PS2, PS3 era action games, you would get Stellar Blade. Stellar Blade has so many collectibles, it is ridiculous. There are like over, like, I don't even know, like 50 outfits. You can find glasses, earrings, you can find exospines that change the way your character fights and the bonuses that she gets. The systems between like boost attacks, or is it burst? It's burst attacks, like burst attacks, and like there's just so many little nuances to the combat. And what's cool about it is, once again, you've heard me say this a couple times, it can be as complicated as you want it to or as simple as you want it to. This game can either be like a game with Souls-like combat, or it can be an action hack and slash, I'm gonna hit the same button until I win type of game. It's completely up to you and how you play and how you shape your character's combat skills. On top of that, the graphics are absolutely fantastic. This game is beautiful. Whether you play it in the 30 FPS super high fidelity graphics mode, or if you play it in the 60 frames per second mode, which I did, it looks absolutely beautiful. The character models in the game are great. You know, obviously Eve is a rather voluptuous character, and the game had a lot of controversy around it because of that, which I believe is why it was snubbed at the Game Awards, but the game does not lean into any of that. This game is more tame than a game like Bayonetta. And Bayonetta, people love Bayonetta. I don't ever recall hearing people get bent out of shape over Bayonetta. So yeah, Stellar Blade is just this fantastic game, and it's really upsetting to me that people probably aren't going to give it the time of day that it necessarily deserves, even though it has sold very well. People are still letting controversy that somebody else created just ruin an experience for them. So if you can pick up Stellar Blade, especially now because I believe it's on sale, give it a go. Give it a real honest go, because it is one of the best action games that we have gotten in probably the last, I'd say this entire generation, if not the last 10 years. I have played Stellar Blade for about 120 hours now, and I still need to go back to it to get the Christmas outfits, because I haven't gotten those yet. The Nier DLC also came out this year, and since the Game Awards included their DLC category stuff, I'm going to include that as part of the reason why it is my game of the year. But as I said, there is one more caveat to this video. I'm going to pick one of the games from previous years, from the first half of the top 5, and one of the actual 2024 games, and we're going to pit them against each other here. So if I had to pick the best game from previous years, out of all of those, objectively, I would have to pick Bloodborne. And then obviously Stellar Blade would be my game of the year 2024. So, putting Bloodborne and Stellar Blade against each other, I would have to give it to Bloodborne. It's just, as good as Stellar Blade is, its story is not great, its world building is not great, its art design is all over the place, whereas Bloodborne is very unified. Everything in that world makes sense, it is all very well thought out. In Stellar Blade, some of the characters don't even look like they belong in the game, or they look like they should come from other games. And Bloodborne is just totally concise and just an absolutely fantastic game. That is why Bloodborne is the best game that I played in 2024. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. It's kind of a different take on the whole thing, but I just wanted to put something together so that you guys could kind of figure out what my game tastes have been this year. If you haven't played any of the games on this list, I highly suggest checking them out. And yeah, I will see you guys next time.